Doctors looked at the scan and told him his career was finished. He was 28 years old and had just played the greatest football of his generation. But the question that haunted every football fan who ever watched him play was not how it ended, it was how much further he could have gone if it had not. The city of Utrecht in the Netherlands sits at the geographic heart of the country, a place of canals and bicycles and quiet Dutch ambition, and it was here in the autumn of 1964 that a boy was born who would one day be called the most complete striker the world had ever seen. His father was a footballer too, a professional who played in the Dutch league, and from the very beginning the boy was surrounded by the smell of grass and leather and the particular obsession that football plants in certain families. The boy showed something unusual very early. While other children chased the ball in wild clusters, he waited, he calculated, he moved into the space before anyone else had noticed it existed. By the time he was 12 he had been spotted by Ajax, the most famous football academy in the world, and everything in his young life reorganized itself around that one fact. The Ajax Academy of the 1970s and 80s was not a place of encouragement. It was a place of selection, pressure, and the constant threat of being told you were not good enough. He trained alongside boys who would become legends in their own right, but even in that company, the coaches saw something that made them watch him more carefully than the rest. But talent in a youth academy means nothing until someone gives you the chance to prove it on a real stage, and for a teenager burning with ambition that wait can feel like a kind of slow torture. Stories like this one, stories of genius delayed, of greatness nearly lost, are exactly why this channel exists, because football history is full of chapters that deserve to be told in full, and if you want to be there every time we uncover one, follow Football Untold right now. When his first team debut finally arrived at Ajax, it was both a confirmation and a warning. The talent was undeniable, but the club was in a period of transition, still searching for a new identity after the total football revolution of the 1970s. He scored goals. He created goals. He moved with a physical elegance that seemed almost unfair, but consistency at the highest level takes time to build, and the pressure on him was immense from the very first match. Then a man arrived at Ajax who would change everything, not just for the club, but for the striker who had been waiting all his young life for someone to truly understand what he could become. Under this new tactical vision, the striker was no longer asked simply to finish. He was given freedom, movement, and the space to become the most complete forward in European football. The 1987 European Cup final against Porto changed the way the world looked at Ajax and at the striker who had become their devastating weapon. He scored. He dominated. He turned what should have been a contest into a demonstration of pure attacking football, and when the final whistle came, the trophy felt like a beginning rather than an end. The summer of 1988 delivered the stage he had always deserved, the European Championship in West Germany, a tournament that would produce one of the most celebrated goals in football history. The Netherlands arrived in orange and fire, a team of enormous individual talent held together by collective belief, and at the center of everything was the blonde striker who had finally arrived on the world stage. In the final against the Soviet Union, he received a ball from his own half, controlled it on his chest from chest height with his back to goal, turned, and with the outside of his right boot guided a volley into the top corner that left the goalkeeper and every person watching completely motionless. It was not just a goal. It was a statement that there existed in football a level of technical mastery that most players could not even dream of reaching. He was named the best player of the tournament and the best player in the world, and when he joined the great Italian club in Milan that same summer, it felt like the natural next step in a story that had no ceiling. The Milan of the late 1980s was a constellation of greatness, a team assembled by a visionary owner and coached by a tactician who treated football like a science, and the Dutch striker became its brightest point. 3 Serie A titles, 2 European Cups, another Ballon d'Or. The numbers were extraordinary, but they still somehow failed to capture what it actually felt like to watch this man play football. Italian defenders who faced him in training admitted privately that there were days when they simply did not know what to do. His combination of power, pace, technical perfection, and goal-scoring intelligence was something that had no obvious solution. But behind the trophies and the goals and the golden nights under the San Siro floodlights, something was quietly going wrong in his right ankle, something that no training regime or medical expertise could permanently fix. He had surgery, then more surgery, then more again. Each time he returned to the pitch, the ankle that had carried him to the summit of world football betrayed him a little further. His final professional match came in 1995. He was 30 years old. The man who had been called the greatest striker on the planet retired not by choice but by necessity, stopped by a body that could no longer do what his mind still could. What was left behind was a legacy that football still struggles to fully measure, because when you retire at 30 having already won everything, people spend the rest of time arguing about how much more you might have done. The goal, the trophies, the Ballon d'Or awards, the single European Championship final moment that still appears on television screens around the world decades later. These are the monuments of a career that lasted just long enough to prove it was unlike anything before it. He was not just a footballer. He was proof of what the position of center forward could be when everything, the body, the mind, the technique, the instinct, existed in perfect combination. And so the story of the greatest striker who never got to finish his story lives on in every debate about the best who ever played. A ghost in the data. A shadow above the numbers. If you want more untold stories like this one, follow Football Untold, because the game still has so many secrets left to give.